Hello and welcome to Tip of the Spearhead. I'm Ace Face and I'm here as always with my good buddy Simon. How you doing, Simon?
Very well, thank you. Just out of lockdown this week, us and the Isle of Man, mate. So we're all very
Yeah,
happy. Sorry to rub that in.
yeah,
It's worth
yeah.
saying
It's
at the
rubbing it
minute.
in a little. Yeah, yeah. Well, it's not really because
Hey,
it's
look, our
painful.
dude,
It's painfully true.
our head dude's been on telly. He's been everywhere. He's been on
Yeah,
Good Morning. He's been on Sky. People had never even knew where we were, and suddenly they know. So there we go. But
all three of you in the little village.
hey, look, no.
Um,
Just before you jump into your thing, it did upset me because I was going to have the UK's first tournament about 3 weeks ago, wasn't I? And that got kicked in the head. So it still hits us. But yeah, we're back. So hopefully I will
it's
still
good.
have UK's first tournament soon.
Fingers crossed, fingers crossed. But yeah, so yeah, guys, thanks very much for joining us. Really appreciate it. As we said in our last podcast, we're going to try and get into a bit more of a routine. So you should get a podcast every other week, not every
Every
single,
single fortnight.
every single
Like,
fortnight. That's
there
exactly
you
right.
go. Yeah.
So yeah, so we're going to try and get a routine. And as always, we try to cover kind of recent stuff if there's stuff around. We'll kind of give you our kind of take on what's kind of new and what we think's interesting, what's quite funny. We kind of poke fun at it, so don't take it too seriously. And we will miss certain bits and pieces. So let us know in the kind of comments wherever you listen to this. You know what kind of key bits that we're missing. We'd be interested to hear your thoughts. But yeah, so it's just generally going to be an hour and a half of a bit of fun, us poking at some new content. And today we've got some cool content for you because we've got the Death Guard Codex to cover, and it is huge. But if you like what you're listening to and you want to listen to other things, Twisted Dice, we have a very active YouTube channel with loads of content in there. We've got painting tutorials, tactics, you name it, we've got it on there. So, and battle reports when we get out of lockdown eventually is obviously our bread and butter. Loads of other stuff going on as well. You can follow us on Facebook and also all over the place. And if you want to support us further, we have a Patreon service where you can become part of a very cool Discord server and chat with like-minded hobbyists and gamers. But yeah, so Death Guard it is tonight, Simon. And I'm excited to look through this book because it is a book with a absolute bucket load of flavour, right?
It's big, filthy flavor, right? But yeah, it's and I hashtag caveat. I am not a Nurgle player, so when you said we're going to get things wrong, we're going to get things wrong because I don't know the half of it. I've been reading this book for about as long as I've had it, and it is a lot in there, right? It's
There is so much in here. There is so much in here.
and so much subtle changes as well. So that's the
Yeah,
thing. It's like I keeps catching me out in ninth anyway. I do find because I'm not playing all the time, and you're probably the same. We're out of the tournament kind of vibe, aren't we? And your brain reverts back to eighth quite a lot. I find it does anyway. And you think, no, hang about, I can't do that. I can't do that. So you read a lot of this, and you're like, right, okay, this is different because it's ninth, but it's cool. It is cool. It's a very cool book.
yeah, it is. It's very cool, and there is loads going on in here. So what we've decided to do is, rather than give you like an absolute word by word, entry by entry review, we're going to kind of scan things, and we'll kind of pick out bits and pieces that we thought are interesting, some of the stronger combos potentially, and just generally some of the bits and pieces that's piqued our interest. But there may be some key little nuggets of information that we miss along the way. So apologies there in advance, but hopefully you'll get something from it. I think let's first of all let's deal with the elephant in the room and kind of just knock off the big man because I don't want to spend too long on him because I think everybody's pretty aware of what's happened here. But I think before we delve into the meat and potatoes of this book, let's talk about the Lord of Death himself, Mr. Death Guard, Mortarion. So what's your initial
Mortarion.
thoughts on this big guy?
Um, I I mean, yeah, he's somewhat good, right? And do you remember, right? So I remember vividly our first off, well, my first LVO. It was your not first, right? And
Yeah.
he was all the rage then, right? And you built your army. If you didn't have an army that could drop Mortarion in one turn, don't bother turning up, right? And
Yeah.
then that kind of went a little bit out over time because everyone learned how to deal with him, right? You had a counter to Mortarion, and he was no longer scary because you could deal with him, right? And then that was kind of how Mortarion was, and you would bemoan it, going, "Oh, I just wish he was tougher," and they must have listened to you, right?
Absolutely, because I love Mortarion. I've always, if anyone's seen me play it, I love generally big, aggressive monster type units that are pretty much just very unsubtle, that you can ram down your opponent's face and cause them to be in floods of tears potentially, but they can be quite hit and miss as well. So I thoroughly enjoyed playing Mortarion, but I think you're spot on, and I think a lot of that as well came from. The night meta, because obviously what we had was at that same sort of time or shortly after, we had the uprising of the Castellan, I think that's what it was called. Was it called Castellan?
Castellan, yeah, the
Castellan,
Castellan, whatever it was.
that big broken knight, and obviously knights were all the thing. So what happened with the meta really quickly is everybody kind of kitted their armies up to deal with one big thing, really quickly. And if you could deal with the knight that potentially would have a free up invon and loads of wounds, you could very quickly deal with Mortarion. So he kind of fell out of favour quite quickly as people kind of learnt how to deal with him. So he went away. And yes, I did kind of moan a little bit because I wish he was a bit tougher. And yes, he did get tougher. So to gloss over him briefly, because we need to mention him, he obviously went up to toughness 8, which is huge, because being toughness 7, it meant that lots of things wounded him on 3s, and now they don't. They wound him on 4s, because strength 8 is kind of quite a popular profile. A lot of things are strength 8, so suddenly it's very difficult to wound him just straight off on a 3. You're almost certainly going to be wounding him on a 4, which then means things become a lot more swingy very quickly. And then, there's a multitude of other reasons why he got so much better. But one of the big things is the fact that he didn't lose disgusting resilience, right?
Yeah, and this is the thing. And it's worth mentioning it. So we always know I have to have a little dig at somebody, right? Do you remember when this was first leaked, the shitstorm that came out from the Death Guard players about how they'd ruined their chapter?
Yeah.
You've ruined my army. We are, without our disgustingly resilient, we are absolutely nothing. It was the core of what we were. It's the flavor. Oh my Jesus Christ. It was like, dry your big sweaty tears. And now look what's happened, right? It just only goes to tell me, yet again, don't overreact until you've read everything, for Christ's sake. Because suddenly, all of this, what's the point? He's quite good now, isn't he? Now, would you like to go back to how it was, or do you want to keep him as he is? Right? Because now he's stupid.
Yeah,
because he does keep his 5 up. Fucking, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, so he didn't lose anything. He gained everything.
Gained lots. He gained everything. Is what he gained. So suddenly, like, hang about. He's what? And he's not even that. I don't even think he's that many points for what he does. So
he's not.
I don't think in any tournament, in any game you ever play against Death Guard, there will not be a Mortarion sat in it. I'm putting it out there. Until we work out how to deal with him, he is almost an auto-include, I think, in anybody's army. He is just that good.
Yeah, and I think one of the big things is the problem that you've got with him is if he does come across something that has got the capability to shoot him down quite quickly, which isn't a lot of things. That it really does take super amounts of firepower to take this guy down. But if you do come across something that is really well kitted out, you just keep him off the board. And that's something, again, you couldn't do in the past, right?
Yep, that was it.
You just keep him off the board, and then then when he comes in,
yeah. I mean, because the thing with it is that this is a game of objectives now, right? And we know this. It's very objectively based. What they've effectively given you here is not just him, but everyone, that they're very tanky. So the way you generally win in I was almost at 8th there, didn't I? The way you win in 9th is you just hold more objectives than they do, right? That's going to win you the game every single time. And you would normally you would sacrifice something to clear off one of theirs, and you start to. It's almost like a game of chess, isn't it? It's like I'm going to hold one more than you, and I'm going to keep stopping you from holding that one. Well, suddenly the Death Guard, you can't. I don't think you can really do that as easily with, and they have a very big piece that's going to do it back to you. Yeah, and it's suddenly like shit. So I played them before this book, and they were quite ploddy. I killed Mortarion really easily. I killed him in combat. Just chucked everything at him. He went down. even with his 5 up that he had, he wasn't that amazing. This now with the -1 damage is I can't even express how huge that is.
It's massive, and the toughness 8. That toughness 8 is huge.
It's
The
massive.
combination of toughness 8 with the -1 damage is just massive.
The +1. So if I sort of what does it for me is not the toughness, because whatever unit I sent in. I'm playing Space Force, as you know. So whatever unit I sent in had +1 to wound. So toughness 7, toughness 8. I was going in with strength 5. It didn't really make any difference to me, but they were all damage 2. Now you've just made my unit half as good.
Yeah.
Right before you've even started, and now it's like, well, shit. So power fists, meh. Heavy bolters, meh. So all of these things, you remember we got all excited about. Damage 2 was the new thing, right? Everybody, damage 2 kills Primaris. It kills so many things, right? Damage 2 is where you want. It's damage 3 now, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. But I remember though, notoriously, I would see a big unit of looters across the table, and my Mortarion would absolutely be shitting his pants, because that was a unit that were all doing flat 2 damage.
Yeah,
only -1, but strength 7.
Yeah, but -1 didn't matter because you're on 4 up in Valenria, right?
Exactly, and just sheer volumes of shots that were all wounding on a 4. Then now they're suddenly wounding on a 5 and doing 1 damage.
Yep.
And that is a huge difference. So there's that. Also, one of the other things that's worth mentioning is he's got a new ability now where he's able to get multiple Warlord traits, right?
Oh, which is how he gets one of his. That's how he gets his 5 up thingy, isn't it? So yeah, and there's been a lot of debate kicking off about this, and we were just having a little chat beforehand. He gets his 5 up. That's fun. Do you know what? This is where it gets really interesting. I've been reading this for ages as well. I'm very interested to know what happens when 2 Mortarions crash into each other, which will invariably happen at some point, because there's a big nullifying factor going on, because you can't. There's all sorts of stuff going on. So are they both going to be toughness 7? Or is that an aura which is turned off by his Warlord trait that turns off auras? What's even going on? Do they cancel each other out? I'm sure there's a rule that says what happens in this environment, but it's suddenly like, shit, I don't even know where to start with that.
Yeah. But the one that we were talking about before we went on, that's probably worth mentioning, I think, which is a huge, big. It's a big thing, right?
Well, you're jumping the gun a little bit, but a
little bit. But I think we need to mention it while we're talking about Mortarion.
Yeah, it's purely because one of his special things is it lets him pick. So he gets his free basic, just free. Sorry about that, right? Only 3 of them. Not the free shit ones either. Let's be honest, they're the free good ones. So okay, he is the Lord. I get it, right? He's the boss. Makes you very excited for when you get your new Captain One Eye, right? How many Warlord traits is he going to get, right? So it's the one he then gets to pick one of the ones from the 7 special
plague companies.
That's it. Yeah, and there's 7, which I like. So there's a lot of fluff in this, right? And there's a lot of fucking stinky cheese too. So he then gets to pick one of the Warlord traits from that. You think, okay, that's interesting. But this is what the general sort of furore around the place is he picks, and the ferrymen are generally considered to be the strongest anyway, I think.
But we'll get to that, won't we? But
well, it's that particular Warlord trait, isn't it? It's that the droning, which makes it very hard for you to escape him. And he's going to be hunting you down anyway. And again, we had that little chat before and going, can you warp time this guy still? And we believe, yes, you can. So he's going to slingshot over to you. And once he's over to you, you getting away from him is very hard, because you generally don't want to be near him, right? So he's going to have a massive impact on your ability to move around the board. And it's not even just moving around near him. It's the fact that if you wanted to jet off to steal an objective, you're now half your speed. Well, hang about.
Yeah.
That's massive. So, and he's a massive base anyway. We know that. So suddenly you've got this big, huge anchor, this blob of shit, which is hard to shift anyway. Yeah. He's slowed your whole army down. So it's not even like you can counter and get across to his other stuff. And it's like, so hang about. Whoa.
And while you're being slowed down, you're also weaker as well, because he reduces your toughness at the same time. So yeah.
Whoa, hang about. And that's a big bubble of that as well.
It is a big bubble.
Counts as being his number 4. So it's got a big bubble, right? So you're like, So suddenly this guy, and it's not like, because you used to do that like back in the day, right? You'd fling him across the board, and he was like an exocet missile, wasn't he? It was just you either deal with him or he deals with you. Now it's that, can you deal with him? And there's a lot of stuff going around about how killable he is, and the one you threw at me, I'm still trying to do the maths on it, and I still don't think it's that gimme because of what he's got going on. But we'll have to, time will tell, right? But this guy's an absolute tank. It's the first time yet that I've sat there and gone, how do I deal with this? I can deal with the Nightbringer to some degree. Ironically, the Nightbringer kills this guy really easy, right? So the Nightbringer versus Mortarion is a fun battle, because I don't think Mortarion can necessarily. Maybe can he kill it?
Yeah, quite. Well, I say not.
It's the free damage, isn't it? He's going to do free damage per.
It's his lantern. So, and also his psychic powers. So he's got obviously psychic abilities.
He's got a hit with a lantern, hasn't he? And he's got to do the damage.
He has, but he does hit on a 2 with a reroll.
Yeah, it's the guy's got.
Actually, no, he doesn't get the reroll anymore. He won't get the reroll anymore.
No, so it's a 2, but it's the guy's got a 4-up invul, so it's 50-50, right?
That's right.
That's right. So it's interesting, but
it's interesting. It's interesting
if he doesn't kill the Nightbringer sibes him, right?
Yeah, he doesn't have enough wounds probably to stand up to the Nightbringer. The Nightbringer will probably just take him down in one turn.
Which is, and then, but that's easy for the Nightbringer. For me, looking at it, going, well, crap. I've had to as a Space Marine, trying to play fluffy wolves has gone out the window, because, like I said, I had power fists on things. Put them in the bin, right? They're not worth the paper no more. That's sad. They had their day in the sun for 3 weeks. Back you go. Thunderhammers come back out again, because you can't even kill a friggin' Plague Marine with it. That's the shit of it. But this guy is deaf, right? And if used well, your Don Houstons of the world, your big players, they're going to get a lot of play at this guy. I don't think you're going to see jumping the gun, maybe, but I still don't think I don't think necessarily you'll see mono Death Guard lists still. I think people will want that, unless they stop it, will want that ability to slingshot people and all the other stuff.
I think the only thing I would say is I'm not sure you can have all of I don't think you can have companies unless you're mono.
Is that right?
We'll go for it. We'll have a look at it. But anyway, that's Mortarion. So that's Mortarion.
We didn't want to spend long on him, right? And we ended up spending ages on him.
Well, you kept going. So I can't stop you from a roll. Yeah, it is. So I think what we'll dive in first of all is we'll kind of start it from the beginning, because it was interesting to talk about them in the last reviews that we've done. And let's talk a little bit about the specific missions, right?
Yeah.
Because I think they obviously in a game now which is just heavily based around those missions, these can be quite big game changers. So we've got 3 again, right?
Yep.
And we've got 1 for No Mercy, No Respite, 1 for Battlefield Supremacy, and 1 for Shadow Operations. So the No Mercy, No Respite is fleeing vectors, yeah?
Which is, so there's always one which is pretty crap. It's thrown in there for a little bit of, maybe for fluff or rounding purposes, and that's your fleeing vectors. Because
score 3 victory points at the end of the battle round if any of your enemies failed a morale test. Doesn't happen very often. That's probably not one you go for.
No.
I think we could gloss over that pretty quick.
Yeah. Well, you're not taking that if you come up against a Death Wing army, right? Since they're fearless.
Or a Tyranid army.
Yeah, or lots of things. So it's not gonna. You're not gonna play that one. So throw that one in the bin.
Throw that one in the bin. So then we have Battlefield Supremacy. This one's a bit more interesting. So if you select this objective, you score victory points for the following. Score 4 victory points at the end of the battle round if you have 1 or more bubonic Astartes units wholly within your opponent's deployment zone.
So that's the first thing you've got to point out, though, right? So the first thing you've got to say there is the new. That is a
new keyword.
Yeah. So they still have the other keyword, right? So they still have the Heretic Astartes, which is where you might see a little bit of shenanigans, but it's very interesting that they're making that very bubonic, and I like that. That's
trying to get away from the Nurgle thing. They're trying to get away from.
It's now a bubonic. Yeah, that's it. So it's a bubonic Astartes, and that's a new thing, and I like that. Right. So,
So you get one basically for being in a position. Score 4 victory points at the end of the battlefield, at the end of the battle round, if you have 1 or more bubonic Astartes units that's wholly within 3 different table quarters. So you get one, which is kind of like the take quarters. Yeah,
Yeah. So this is like an end game one, isn't it? Let's be honest. It's
absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, and then you've got one basically for the other. So it's basically being in all the different zones, right?
Yep. Yep. So
More
it's
or less.
very, but you've got different points for doing different things, right? And
Yeah.
but it's all end game. So it's interesting because they're hard to kill, right? But the only thing I would say about any end game is you need
All
them to
very
be alive at the end, right?
You do. It's very all or nothing, and it's always they're always risky ones because when you don't manage to stack up them points, you're just you're playing a very dangerous gambling game.
If you're playing a grind game, it means you're always in it, right? Because you know you've got those big hitter points at the end, which is for a lot of armies is quite a bit harder to do. Like for a lot of this game is you score fast, score quick, right? Get them in, get them
Absolutely.
wrapped up. So it is interesting to have a more, and it's very powerful because if you get it, it scores big, right? You're going to
It
get your
does.
50 points, no drama at all.
Absolutely, absolutely. And then you've got shadow operations, and this one's very poignant for now because it's called spread the sickness.
Yeah, yeah. That's
bit close to the bone, maybe.
Is it too soon?
Too soon?
Too soon.
Maybe too soon.
Yeah, I mean, I can say this since I've had Nurgle's plague. I probably did infect some of my objective markers myself whilst at home. So yeah, that's fine. So they might even come semi-contaminated. But this is the one I think, right? So out of the three, for me,
what does this one do then?
This is you just sitting on an objective and you basically puke on it. That's the way I look at it.
Okay.
And you make it yours. And you get a little bit of a hard. You take D3 mortal wounds. Okay, not everything's got a 5-up feeling of pain anymore, but to score effectively once you've contaminated it, that's it. It's done. Right?
You've got to roll a 4+ for that contamination, right?
Nope. Choose one of the following. You either roll a 4+, or
you take the mortal wounds.
Yeah, or you take the mortal wounds.
So you're always going to take the mortal wounds, basically.
Yeah, because well, guess what unit can score this, but can't score anything else?
Really?
The little shambling zombies. So you just put the shambling zombies on, take D3 of them off, done.
And you might not, because with those you can actually take the 6.
Yeah. So you might save 1 or 2, but still,
who cares, right?
One thing they can do. Yeah. So you shamble onto it, and that's it. That's contaminated. Then you put your little green blob on it. That's yours, right? It doesn't matter. At the end of the game, I don't think you necessarily have to. You don't have to hold it. You just have to contaminate it. Once it's contaminated, you can't seem to cleanse it. It is done. And that's so the more you do, so that's as you're going in the game. So you get onto the objective. So right at the start, most missions you start with 1 or 2, right? That's 6 points. Boom, done. And it's like, and then it's a case of, well, if I can get more into the game, I'll start stealing a few more. That to me is
solid, isn't it?
Quite strong.
It's solid.
It is only Death Guard infantry. Death Guard aren't fastest.
Yeah, no, but I think you're going to take
stuff and various bits. That to me, out of them, that's the one I'd take anyway, because I think it is quite fluffy, isn't it? And B, I think you're going to definitely, I think scoring that is, you're going to get at least 9, I'd say, most games, which for a secondary isn't bad. Or you obviously go big and you gamble under the spoiled ground.
Yeah. Don't know. No, I think it's right.
But you ain't taking fleeing vectors, right? That's gone. So I think it's just whether or not you want to gamble and go for the for the big monster points at the end, or you take a slow, steady build up. I'm not so much of a gambler. I'm probably going to slow, steady build up.
No. So then we've got detachment abilities, which is your kind of standard stuff, which is basically giving you the keywords or the key kind of phrases throughout the book. So you have you've got disease minions, right?
Yeah, and it's just you can't have more poxwalkers than plague marines, right? So I like that. Well, followers. It's also the cultists, but cultists you can throw them in the bin. Turn them into poxwalkers, paint them in green slime, right? That's what you need to do with all your cultists.
That's what you think. I'm not so sure.
I'm 100% sure, but that's it. Well, poxwalkers get obsec anyway, so why would you not? The other guys don't, and poxwalkers can infect things. It just seems like why would you bother with cultists? What are they going to do? Not really.
They are a point cheaper, aren't they?
I think they're both 5, aren't they? I might be wrong.
Anyway,
they're a little bit faster, but anyway. So that's interesting.
And then you have infernal jealousy.
Yeah.
So Infernal Jealousy is you can't include you can include a maximum of one Lord of the Death Guard unit in each Death Guard detachment. So you can't take more Lords, basically. Well, anyone that has that keyword, right?
It's just no different from us and captains, so it's the same.
Yeah. Yeah. So I
Which
don't
is
know
fine.
whether I think basically you can't take probably the Lord of Contagion and the Chaos Lord and probably Typhus. I guess probably have all that
Well,
same.
even a demon prince. So I
Yeah.
don't, and this is where it gets weird. I don't know why it then says you can only have one demon prince because the demon prince has, unless I'm missing something, has
Has
that
that.
keyword.
Uh,
Yeah. So I'm a bit
Interesting.
like, yeah. So the Lord of the Death Guard. So you can include a maximum of one, and you can include a maximum of one demon prince in each death. So I'm looking at it going, okay, you've made a very specific point of that. But then when you go to the data sheet for the demon prince, he's got Lord of the Death Guard in there. So I was like,
Interesting.
yeah, I must be missing something because it's like,
Maybe.
what? Doesn't make no sense. But anyway,
And then we have Photrid. Was how do you say that, Simon?
oh
Photrid
yeah,
Viron.
is this the yeah? This is your the three little mini characters, isn't it? So
You can
yeah,
include
fetid
up to three of
Verons or
them.
something. Yeah.
Yeah.
So this is the Tallyman, the dude with the flamethrower
Yeah.
thing.
You
It's
can only have three of
the
these
elite.
dudes. It's the support characters, right?
Yeah, but you can take three of them as one, which is really quite strong. Yeah, fetid Veron. So that's and there's some real play in these guys, right? And that's
Yes.
the fact that you can take three of them and only use one elite slot is like quite big
Yeah. It's
because it's
nice.
like I mean, I suppose Space Marines can take multiple um, lieutenants as one slot, right? So, but I think these guys are way more interesting. So,
Yeah. I mean, you can
um,
take more elites than anything else anyway, though. So, but I suppose it just depends what things you want to take, right?
yeah, well, as with anything in life. So the thing with this is so if you want to take a normal detachment, so you want to take a battalion, because you can only take one lord, right? You have to take one other character, which means you have to have a sorcerer. So there's now as like a sorcerer tax, and I'm not saying that you wouldn't want one, but you now can't. It's not like you can do like so. Like for me, I can do a lieutenant and a guy, and the lieutenant's probably a bit cheaper but you don't have that option as the Death Guard. You don't have a lieutenant, right? So all their kind of more lieutenant type models are in the elite slots. So you have to take another HQ, and that's basically, I think it was what was I saying? It's like it's you're pretty much down to either the
Sorcerer.
sorcerer or the
Yeah.
malignant plague caster. I think you have to take one of them. So you have a tax of sorts that you have to take if you want to take the
Yeah.
battalion. So
Yeah.
unlock all
Because you
the stuff.
can't take two of the characters you really want to
Yep.
take. Yeah.
Yeah, so and if you want, but if you want to play multiple lords, you end up having to take multiple platoons. It'll eat your CP a little bit, right? So that's essentially what you've got to bear in mind. But there is a little bit of a tax there, and that
Yeah.
said, most people probably were taking a sorcerer or something anyway. But I think it's just an interesting little tickle,
Yeah.
a little
And
bit
then you've
different.
got basically their advanced thing, which is basically they ignore all the modifiers for movement, basically, right?
Oh, it's a pile of nonsense.
Which
Yeah,
is really strong, really strong.
it's massive for some of their vehicles because it means
Yeah,
that
yeah.
they
And their vehicles all
they
got
don't
better anyway.
and it means that they don't get the minuses to hit in combat. That's what it
Yeah.
means, which is just like, oh, for God's sake. So everyone else in combat gets a -1 if they're shooting, right? They don't, which is a bit like, ugh.
Yeah.
But anyway, that it makes sense. It's a very Death Guardy thing, right? That's what they did.
It
So
is. They always
I can
did. Yeah,
handle
the
that.
heresy stuff is very similar. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So it's
it
fine.
makes a lot of sense. It makes a lot of sense. So then we've got plague companies, and this is a really interesting, quite unique flavor thing, which is very similar to what you had previously with the Thousand Suns with the
I know
book,
these
right?
guys had these guys. Yeah, yeah. So
They had it as well, didn't they? They had
it's
their
the
own one
same
as well.
seven, I think. They've just changed some of the bits.
Yeah.
So I think they're the same seven. So it's the first, second, third, all the way up to seven
Yeah,
plague
which we don't
company.
need to go through in detail, but it will be interesting to kind of so what it says around. So if your army is battle forged, plague company, units in the Death Guard detachment gain access to the following plague company rules,
Yep.
provided every model in the detachment that is drawn from your plague company is drawn from the same plague company. Such a detachment is referred to as a plague company detachment. So far, that's not stopping you then from having anything at the moment. So, because that's what we were talking about earlier, whether there was going to be something to stop you from taking
Yep. It
it.
doesn't.
It doesn't from that. No.
No,
Uh,
so you can have one. So, and it's exactly the same with what they did with it. So, like, you can have a detachment of Space Wolves, and it
yeah.
gets all of those rules, right? As long
Yeah.
as all of that detachment is that, and then as long as you have another, what it stops is the old soup of back in the day where you'd have this, a bit of that, and you'd have all with the Nurgle keyword,
Yeah.
right? And then
Yeah.
and then that was, so it stopped all that, and I quite like that. There is a little caveat. I think Typhus, he's a harbinger, so he's the first. Makes sense.
Yeah.
He gets to go in any of the others, but he doesn't gain their
He
rules.
doesn't gain them, but
So you can
he doesn't break theirs though. So
no, and of course the Lord of the dance himself, he gets to be whatever the shit he likes.
he doesn't care.
Well, I suppose they're all his children, right? I get that, except for obviously the harbingers, because he hates Typhus, doesn't he?
Hates Typhus. He's not a big fan of Typhus. No,
They're not buddies, are they?
they're
But
not
no,
buddies. No.
it doesn't actually stop him joining that either. So he can swallow his smelly pride and join in. But I think, like, I don't think you necessarily want to go through all of them, right? There's two definite kind of standouts for winners of the award for best plague company. I think.
Go for it. What do you reckon?
Oh well, I think
the
ferryman is number one. I think. Everyone, because of that, the droning is just very thing about that one. Whether or not, and that's, I mean, Mortarion can have that anyway, which means that if you then have a ferryman, they can't have it again. But that's just kind of crazy. And their relics, like, really nice. But their undroning wings is like really quite nice as well, because it ups aura abilities, which is it's because it's the fetid Virion again. Quite a lot of their aura abilities are really nice, and you can make some of these auras add 6 inches is huge. Like, one of them's got a 6-up feel no pain, and you can suddenly have a 9-inch feel no pain bubble.
That is nice.
Tons and tons to play.
Yeah.
And then you've got other things. I think some of the relics work really well with that one as well. But I think that's your kind of. I think that's your. Most people who've read it have gone, whoa. I was reading something the other day. I think Don Hewson, the Nurgle King himself, thinks the droning is, so far, he thinks that's the first OP thing he's seen in 9th. That's genuinely what he said. So I don't know. He knows more than I do about Nurgle, but he's very thing about that. I think that was the one which people sort of said stood out the most. And then I was trying to think what the other one was.
See, I really think there's a lot of play in the indoxable.
The inexorable. Yeah, that's a lot of people are saying that one as well.
Because it has the aura where it's the +1 to attacks. No, to the armor penetration when you're within the aura range.
Yeah, so that's the
Warlord trait.
And their stratagem is really good as well, because it knocks charge range off, which is really strong. Because it just means that you almost have to.
Yeah, that's it.
It's whether or not you want to be. You have to charge these guys at some point as well.
It really works when they're holding objectives and things like that. It kind of synergizes really well with that whole kind of stay away from us thing. And then when you do get close to us, then we're even better.
Yeah.
So I looked at it and I just thought I could imagine things being pretty tough and killy sitting in the middle of the board.
Yeah.
And then it's stopping them getting close to you. But then when you do get there, you've got this aura, which means that your stuff's even more killy.
Yeah. It is. It's really good. And I think the other one, which everyone's raving on about, is Mortarion's Anvil. I think that's the one which is got a lot of people cheesing off, because I think because Mortarion can just have the best Warlord trait. I think a lot of people are going, well, you give him the droning, because that's the best Warlord trait, and then what you'd actually do is have, like, a lot of people are going on about this Mortarion's Anvil, which is
the relic. Is it the relic they're talking about?
It's the it's reroll hit, reroll wounds, because you put it on your demon prince.
Demon prince,
and it makes him an absolute wrecking machine.
Yeah, because he rerolls hits, doesn't he? Rerolls. But it makes him
he doesn't reroll, does he? Because he's
no.
not. So he gives him.
It gives him the old demon prince roll.
Well, even better. Yeah, because he's rerolling wounds as well.
Yeah. It gives him like kind of lightning claws without the lightning claws and with everything else.
Well, lightning claws with a big fucking sword is what it actually gives him it with. Because that big fucking sword now is decent, right?
Yeah, it does.
And the annoying thing is the sword's 3 damage.
Yeah.
Which is the magic place for damage, right? So he goes in with 6 attacks. They're almost saying now, almost like not bothering with Malefic Talons. or you have it for when you need it. But really, a lot of the time, you're just because all the Malefic Talons gives you is one extra attack, so it gives you. So it's like, would you not a lot of AP because they've made the AP Malefic Talons down to only -1 now, which is pretty big, and 2 damage, which is like it's not amazing. Whereas the Hellforged Sword is like now he goes in at like strength 8, -3 AP, 3 damage with hits and wounds rerolling. That's like that's going to hurt.
Yeah.
So I think that's what a lot of people are raving on about because it gives you that kind of like if you have to take a Lord anyway. To be honest, a lot of the Lords aren't amazing. So you'd probably want a Demon Prince anyway, and that suddenly makes. Yeah, to some degree, but he's quite slow, isn't he? Whereas
he's very slow. That's his only problem.
Demon Prince. I don't think you can have wings. I'm trying to work this out. I think you can still have wings, or you might not be able to. They might have gone back to the actual model. Do you remember how like they stopped people from actually? No, he can have wings. So suddenly he gains. Yeah, I mean he's pretty fast anyway because he's got a movement of 8 basic, but now he goes up to 10 and he can fly over stuff. I think that's what a lot of people are going to do because your normal Lords are pretty slow. Typhus is okay, but he's not. I don't think he's amazing. He's slow as balls, isn't he? So whereas the Demon Prince, if he gets there, you're gonna have to deep strike the guy, aren't you? And then he's not really in the game, and yada yada yada. I mean the Scythe. His Scythe's mental, right? Don't get me wrong. The fact that they've made all these Scythes with 2 profiles now is nuts.
7 attacks on the charge.
Is he getting an extra attack from somewhere? I can't work that out.
He gets I don't know whether he gets another one on top of that, but he gets in the charge because he gets the same thing that all thingies get, don't they? All same as Marines when they charge, they get an extra attack, don't they?
Oh yeah. Yep.
So they get the whatever it's called. I don't remember the name of it. But they get that whatever it's called, chaotic charge or whatever, some sort of.
Do you know what? I must be daft. I haven't come across that again. I'm sure it's in here. I'm sure it is. So it's I'm just still flicking through this thing. So I think that they're the sort of the ones, and I think the other ones have got some flavour, but nothing that really jumps out.
I think those 3 are the strongest. They were the 3 that jumped out to me. So yeah. But I mean, let us know if we've missed something again and missed a really strong one that you think's got loads of play. Reading through them, I don't think any of them were bad, and I think they were. The nice thing with them, because they've got flavour, there's certain builds that benefit certain ones of them. So you'll build your army around depending on which kind of style you want to play. But those ones probably the standout strong ones, I suppose. Right?
Yeah, and I think the other thing with the Anvil, just to move on, I just spotted it. I knew there was something else. Is you can make things not Overwatch or not defend, which is really strong.
It's less of a deal as it used to be, but yes, it is strong.
Oh, against some things, it can be really, really good, though. It's just that because they can set their +1 to hit, can't they? So they can, when you charge them, they can go, I'm going to set to defend. I'm going to shoot you with +1 Overwatch. If you're charging someone with a lot of guns, just being able to go, no, you're not. It's massive because it's just, especially if you're going in with, if you've put that, if you decide not to play Mortarion, let's just say you're mad and you found something else, and you put your Warlord as your Demon Prince, so he gets that, you can't Overwatch him, and he's got that big smashy sword, and that's pretty tough. And I actually think, fairly sure you can give somebody another Warlord trait anyway. Everyone seems to have a chance.
Yeah, there is.
So I think you give him that anyway. So you give him that anyway. So suddenly you can't Overwatch the dude once, and it gets bigger and bigger because that goes up with the contagion, which that builds over time, right? So suddenly, I just think he just gets smellier. That's the thing, innit? And he just gets more disgusting, and he gets harder to shoot the gun. Suddenly, it's like, whoa, hang about, this guy's good. So there's others, but I think they're your standouts. I think.
Yeah, definitely. So then we've got stratagems, and they have bucket loads of stratagems, and a lot of them are fairly reasonable for what they do.
Yeah, there's some pretty interesting ones. Like some are like crazy CP, and it's like Jesus Christ.
So let's start at the beginning. So you got trench fighters, which basically gives them an additional attack with their plague knives. Which is okay. It's not amazing.
It's one of those things that'll come in useful every now and again, right?
Okay. Yeah, every now and again. Creeping blight is until the end of the phase.
You roll a 6. You're on. So with your plague weapon, so your plague
super rending. It's rending. Gives you like a massive rend. Yeah.
Which they had anyway. That was in the old book. You could do that anyway. So. So 6 is when you run the rolls of 6, you go -4, which is again is handy. I suppose if you link that with the one above, it's not terrible.
Yeah. Then you got Fire Fever, which is basically like Fire Frenzy from
Hellbrute move on.
which Hellbrute. Well, I think Hellbrutes have got more play than they ever have before. I don't know whether they're top tier still, but they now have the same rule as the Space Marine ones, so that's good, right?
Yeah, suppose so.
So I don't think they're too bad. I don't think they're too bad.
Yeah, maybe.
They don't get the disgusting resilience, new disgusting resilience, which is a shame because I think they got that. They would actually be pretty good, but they don't get that. So the same as before. So whereas before, like the generic Chaos Space Marine units never got disgusting resilience, it's still the same thing. So even though you've got things like defilers and predators and what have you in here, those things still don't class as like your specific Nurgle stuff, so they don't get the Nurgly rule. So just bear that in mind, which is one thing that probably brings the Hellbrute down. I think they're better.
If I was taking vehicles, I'm taking the stupid things with the mortars on top.
The Nurgle stuff.
I ain't taking the dreadnoughts. Let's put it that way.
No, that's fair. So then you've got Vermid Whispers.
It's another band name, innit? We do love our band name stratagems.
Yeah, they do love it. They do love it.
Like 80s kind of pop there, maybe. Vermid Whispers.
So this is for Terminators, for Death Guard Terminators.
It's pretty strong.
And then, that's really, really good. Really good.
Yeah, it's shooting or fight.
Like that a lot.
Yeah. Anything that so they're all got they shoot a lot, and if they have power fists or equivalent, a plus one to hit in either phase is massive, right? For 1 CP, I'll take that. That's good.
I think it's really, really good. Really good.
Because you're going to be bringing Terminators, right? Let's be honest.
I would have thought so. And my guess is that probably all of their different variants of Terminators have that keyword. I'm guessing off the top of my head. So you are. So Haze of Corruption. This one's for Death Guard core units. And what does this one do?
It overwashes damage, I think, from memory.
So this basically does what the kind of
old flail used to do.
Flail does. It still does it. But so
I thought the flail they stopped that. I didn't think that.
Actually, yeah, you might be right. I've also I've been reading the Dark Angels one. Their one still does it.
Oh, does it? Of course it does. Why wouldn't it?
Does. Anyway, moving on swiftly. Yeah.
Eternal Hatred is interesting. Again, it's shooting. So this is another one, and this is
wounds.
So this is another one, right? Which is it catches you out. So I've got one in my Space Wars book as well, which is you have to activate it in the shooting phase, but it can be used in the fight phase. But if you haven't activated it in the shooting phase, it's gone. And I know a lot of people are quite forgiving, but I'll be honest with you, if you're bringing this against me and you don't use it in the right phase, well, you've already got the cheese as far as I'm concerned. You ain't having it, right?
Because Mortarion's carving up the rest of your army, and you're like, hang on a minute, mate. You just tapered half my army in one turn. You're not having that.
Yeah, so because adding 1 to the attack roll is massive, right? It's the fact that you use shooting phase too, because you link that with your Vermid Whispers, and you're getting +1 to hit, +1 to wound with 40 bolter shots. Tell me that doesn't hurt, right?
Yeah, no, that's fair. That is going to hurt. So then we've got that makes sense. So we've got the first one that's dedicated to Poxwalkers, right?
Yep.
So this is making Poxwalkers a bit better. So any unmodified hit roll of a 6 inflicts a mortal wound on the target in addition to any other damage. That's not bad, right?
Hang about. Since this kind of came out, I think the way that you would build your Death Guard is now different. So you would have your wave of bloody guys out in the front, and you'd make it so that nothing else could be shot, blah, 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 blah. And now that you can't just have a never-ending wave of Poxwalkers, now you have to have one for every one, right? I don't think you're gonna. If you did do Poxwalkers, you would have maybe one big blob of them, maybe.
Yeah. But on one big blob of them, this is strong, right?
If it gets into combat, if they don't die,
if it doesn't die and gets into combat, which is a lot of ifs and buts because they are very, very fragile. But if it gets there,
it's going to get there. You're just going to sit down on the objective at the back. So it's if I charge you,
it's very situational.
Have you got better things to spend 1 CP on? I guess you probably do.
Yeah,
but
I mean,
nice playing it that way.
It probably doesn't have the play to do the kind of like cultists. Used the old cultists. Bring them in +1 to wound and all that stuff, shenanigans that you used to do. You'd outflank them, bring them back, all that
Long gone,
nonsense.
long gone. So
Yeah, I know that's long gone, but there's still not really a play to do it with these, is there
no,
really?
no,
I
I don't
don't
think
think
so.
so. I don't think so. I think
Like Poxwalkers will have a very specific that you'll use them to sit in objectives. I don't. I might be wrong. Maybe you will have one big blob of them just to make that really hard to do because they don't run away, right? So they never fail leadership. So you have to kill 30 of them, which is you have to dedicate to do that. But
quite
I've got
difficult, though, is it?
I've
I mean,
got
they are
5
tough as
guys.
4, which is at least they're tough as 4, right?
Yeah, sure thing. But there's lots of things that can come and like sort that out, right? So we'll see. But again, I'll be interested because they're not the cheapest, and a lot of your units are really good and quite expensive. And I think you'll burn 3 points fast with this army, and you'll run the risk of falling for that. It's dead strong, but you can't control a lot of objectives, and then you've almost lost before you've started. So I don't know. It'd be interesting. I think you'll have a couple of units of Poxwalkers maybe just to sit on the back whilst everything else shambles forward. But then you do leave yourself a bit open to getting the old rear ending, as we call it. Yeah, I don't
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
It'd be interesting to see. Like I
So
said,
then
I'm
we've
not
got
a Death Guard player, but
then.
Poxwalkers don't scare me, right? That's what
No,
I'm
they
saying.
don't scare me either. I'm not impressed. So then we have diseased
Effluence, my friend.
affluence.
Effluence.
Effluence.
Poo.
This is
That's what
naff.
that
I
is.
looked at things really. This is just.
Well, that works then because it disease effluence is just smelly poo. So yeah, okay. Suffers one mortal wound. Oh yeah, you're right.
It's just breathe on. This is one of the filler ones. Unclean machine spirits. Um,
I'm reading this. I'm reading this. So
Go on.
once
Go over
select
it.
one Death Guard character from you. So this is it's in your command phase. Oh yeah,
Yeah.
no, move on.
Yeah.
That's situational.
Yeah. Then we've got one for Death Guard machine spirit. So what can this
Just
one do?
just gives you a machine spirit, so it lets
Gives
you
you a
use your full
wound back.
wounds. No, it just lets you use your full wounds to shoot.
Oh, it's just that. Yeah. Okay.
Nah, not
Boring, but can be
yeah.
useful. It's standard, really, isn't it?
Maybe befouled incubators. That's again, maybe that's a little bit too soon for where we are in the world right now.
Yeah. So it's a fight
Use
phase
stratagem,
one.
fight phase, character. Until the
Mortal
end of phase, each
wounds.
time is
Does
destroyed.
damage.
3+ suffers a mortal wound. It could work again if you've got that with your killy Death Prince. He's going to be killing things. Every time you kill one, you roll it on a dice. A 3+ does another mortal wound. Each time an enemy model is destroyed, he goes in with 7 attacks. It's got play, but Mortarion as well. So Mortarion goes in with his reaping scythes. He's going to wipe squads
Yeah.
with that.
Yeah. Yeah,
By
that's
the
very
look of it.
fair. That's fair. And then we've got what big fat smelly wargamers do at every tournament. They release the toxins.
At some point, somebody who's been on too many soft drinks and burgers will
They
drop
do
their guts, and it does
release the toxins.
point fingers at various other people. And it's
Yeah.
normally me because of the beer, but I like to not take the blame for it. Use the stratagem command phase again. Another one that you've got to be really careful of, and I keep spotting these. It's
Yeah.
like order of play is massive now. It didn't used to be like this, did it? Now it's like very. You've got to do certain things at certain points. The drinking player like me is going to struggle with shit like this. That's all I'm going to say because I will forget.
Yeah.
So if you play me, be nice.
Yeah.
Not that I'm going to play this nonsense, but anyway, Death Guard character who was equipped with a relic of decay. At the start, roll 1d6 for each enemy within 7 under 2-5. It's more ways to do mortals.
Yeah, and it's the same with the next one. So the eruption of filth, which is something that you find in the toilets, again on a Sunday morning.
Wasn't that Cradle of Filth's second album? But anyway,
or eruption of filth. And this one basically is exploding characters. So that's all it is. Before you take them off, then basically roll and see whether they explode and do more mortal wounds.
that's not
Which
so
is
bad
quite.
because you're probably
It's not
going to be
bad.
taking that little triumvirate of little guys, or you
Yeah,
might well do.
it's not terrible at all.
And,
It,
and
it,
if
it might be the difference between just pinging off that
yeah,
last couple of. Yeah, it's all right, isn't it?
Champion of Disease. Woo. Select one from your army with a champion. Always give them the relic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So okay.
Yep. Yeah,
Yeah.
and same with the Gifts of Decay. This is the Warlord trait one, I think. Is it the Warlord trait one?
No, it's the one that just lets you gives you another relic. So
Yeah. Yeah.
so it's the double relic one.
And
Or
then
if you go for Strike Force, you can have 3 relics. when we all play Strike Force, right? So that's fine.
And then the Plague Chosen is the Warlord trait one.
Yep. Again, since you've probably all got all of the Warlord traits anyway, I mean, why be greedy? But okay.
Grandfatherly influence. This is a spawny one. So use a stratagem when you are mustering your army. Select one Death Guard Chaos Spawn unit from your army. Add +1 toughness characteristics. And the unit has disgusting resilience ability, which I tell you what, for 1 CP or 2 CP,
spawn. Yeah, so if you're going to go big and go for 6 spawn, which I think you can go to, I might be wrong.
That's probably quite good. That's probably quite good because I think what are they toughness 5 or are they toughness 6?
Well, they have no save, or they never
No,
used
I know.
to anyway.
They don't
just
have
have their 5 up, right? So now they don't have that. Now they'll have -1 damage. But then with toughness 5, no save, you just hose them down with bolters, right? So I'm not entirely sure. Maybe, I don't know.
Yeah, -1 damage, -1 damage with they at maximum they might be toughness 6 now, they might be toughness 7. I don't know whether they're toughness 5, where they were toughness 5 or toughness
Spawn,
6.
found them, toughness 5.
So they're now toughness 6.
Toughness 5. Oh no, they've got a 5 up save now. I take it all back.
That's not bad.
They have
not bad.
They have some smelly armor on.
Yeah, that's not bad. It's not bad. It's not great, but it's not bad.
It's up to 5 models, so you can have 5 of them. So yeah, it's okay.
So then you got sickly sickly corrosion.
Okay, I'm sorry, mate. I'm moving around my page. Sickly corrosion. What's this one do? Fight phase or shooting phase. Always interesting. With a plague weapon, which is pretty much most things bar bolters, right?
Yeah.
Score a hit.
Reroll wound rolls of 1.
Wound of 1. So it's basically a lieutenant, right?
It's all right. Belching fumes.
These aren't kind to you, are they? These titles. They need to sort themselves out.
They never are. But belching fumes, I can just about cope with. So this one's for the Malefic Blight Haulers.
I can never remember
really
which one's friggin' rich. Right, one of them's got the little spewers on. One of them's got the little death roller thing on it. Which one's which? I never get it.
These are the little cars. These are little go-kart ones.
The little easy clip together bikes.
Yes, the little go-karts, like they look like little buggies, yeah.
With little mouths on the front.
Yes.
Yeah.
They're very cool.
Because these are the ones with actual guns, aren't they?
Those are the ones with guns. Yeah.
So these are the ones that actually benefit from they can sit in combat and not take minuses to shoot.
And they are +1 to hit now. They used to be hit on 4s, now they hit on 3s.
Oh, there you are. The little bikes with little mouths. Meep.
Little melters. Melters. They're good. So this is pretty cool. What does this do? This gives them.
Must have given because I'm in there.
Each time an enemy model makes an attack range weapon against this unit, reduce the number of attacks made with that weapon by 1 to a maximum of 1.
So it gives them -1 to hit in shooting and in combat.
Yeah.
So,
right.
Okay. It's not the end of the world, right?
Then you've got Blight Bombardment, which
this is
the orbital bombardment. So I'm just gonna go.
Oh yeah. No, it's not terrible because you can put it wherever you want.
Yeah, it's not terrible.
It's a lot of points. But I don't think you use it very often.
Yeah.
I tried the Space Marine one and it's changed quite considerably, and it's handy to put it onto an objective and go, if you come onto my objective, I'm going to orbitally bombard you, but actually it doesn't do that much damage when it was all said and done. So never mind.
And then you've got the Dead Walk again, which is basically reanimation for Poxwalkers.
Again, if you've got 30 of them, I think that's probably the only way to play them now is to go big or go home.
Yeah.
I think if you go for little
CP,
units of them.
It's only 1 CP to a roll of 3+. It's okay. It's okay. Cloud of Flies, that was really good before, wasn't it? Cloud of Flies was where it was at. This must change dramatically, I'm guessing. It's 2 or 4 CP. So use a stratagem at the start of your opponent's shooting phase. Select 1 bubonic Astartes infantry unit from your army until the end of the phase. Each time an enemy model shoots, if that unit is not the closest eligible target or within 12 inches of the model, then until that shooting phase is resolved, the model can't target that unit. In addition, until the end of the phase, if the selected unit has the bodyguard ability, it loses that ability if it is selected, if it is the selected unit. has the Terminator keyword. This stratagem
Yeah.
costs 4 CP. Also, if it's got the Terminator keyword, it costs 4
Yeah.
CP.
So if you want to
Otherwise,
drop your 10 Terminators down with a
Blight
little screen in
Lords.
front of them, you're
Yeah,
going to have to pay 4 CP for the privilege. So
yeah,
it has changed massively because it used to be too cheap. Now it is more reasonable.
fair.
If you want
Yeah,
to protect your unit of Plague Marines with Poxwalkers in front, then it's 2 CP. That's that.
yeah. And I don't think it cost. I don't think it had the 12 inches either. I think it was just
Yeah.
everything, wasn't it? It was just used to be
So
the closest. Now it's if they're within 12 as well,
yeah. So if you're within 12,
you
you
can
can
still
shoot
be.
whoever you like.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That
But
changed, I
outside of
think.
that,
Yeah,
yeah, which is fine because a lot of things can deep strike down and still shoot. So it's not a foolproof thing that it used to be. And because of that, I think, again, if you go massive with your blob of Poxwalkers and build a big, huge wall of them, you can probably stop me getting to within 12 and use it on turn 1. So I think it does have some play there. And that's why I think you still might see one big unit of Poxwalkers because you can still.
yeah,
Because you
yeah.
can still guard them
Protect
to
your
some
stuff.
degree.
Yeah,
But again, if you're deploying your Plague Marines out in the open, that obviously, again,
yeah,
I don't know. Anyway,
yeah.
we'll see.
So then we've got Break Their Spirits, which we'll gloss over quickly. It's another boring leadership debuff.
Sometimes useful, but not very.
Can be very situational. And then we've got Dark Cravings. Interesting.
Which
It's
is
like
your bloat drones. This
chocolate
is
advert.
it can heroically intervene, which is pretty interesting.
It's got the mowers, flesh mowers on it,
Yeah. Is
which
that
should
the
be quite.
flesh mower one? Is it? Yeah.
Yeah, that's the flesh mower one. Yeah.
So yeah, and it can do it 6 inches. So it's a 6-inch. So yeah, it's interesting. You can't
Yeah.
leave those guys out in the open because if
No,
those stupid mowers hit you, you get hurt, right?
they hurt. Yeah. They're pretty solid.
Yeah,
Then we have Demonic Gluttony.
just a
Um,
heal, just a heal
which is
back.
heal.
Yeah.
Flash Outbreak.
Yes, that's what you use to clean up, um, clean up the smelly Nurgle, right? So I'm assuming that's what this is, right? So this is like someone's unleashed the cleaning power of Flash. It does say brilliantly. On occasion, a contagion will flare up brilliantly. Oh no, it's not quite the same.
Not quite the same.
Or not even Flash from Queen. It's
If
not quite
there
the same.
are any other plague company units from your army on the battlefield that have the contagion abilities that the selected unit does not have, then the unit at the start of the next command phase, the selected unit has all of the same contagion abilities in
So
addition to the one it already has.
if you're playing multiple companies, that's what it
Yeah,
does. So
yeah.
it lets one company steal another company's contagion. Might be reasonable. Don't know. I don't know enough about that style of play for whether that's going to be cool or not.
No,
Bar
I agree.
having a very misleading name, a flash outbreak would clearly kill the contagion, not the other way around. Idiots.
Then we've got Putrid Detonation, which I
It's
can
the
think we
old
can probably
school
guess
blow
what
up.
that is. Blow
Yeah,
up, yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
Been there
Foul
before.
Smoke Scream, again, something that happens to wargamers quite regularly. Use this stratagem in your opponent's shooting phase when a Death Guard's
If it has the smoke
smoke
screen
screen.
keyword,
Yeah, okay.
which
Unit,
which
the selected target, -1 to hit against things with that.
yeah. So we have that with the Phobos shit in
Yeah,
Space Marines. So I don't know exactly what has that. I'm imagining Plague Guard maybe or something, or vehicles normally have smoke, don't they? So I don't know,
yeah,
something like that. -1 to hit. What it is.
yeah, yeah. And then we've got,
Lightning.
I know, not the brightening, but the blightening. This is a grenadey one, isn't it?
Yes, it
So
is.
select up to 3 Death Guard models from the unit until the end of the phase. Plague weapons with grenade type thrown.
Piss of 6. So
Piss of 6.
you get 18 grenades basically.
Yeah, you can only do it with 3 of them, but yeah, that's decent, isn't it?
It's
good.
Potentially.
Right.
Potentially. They hit automatically, which is nice if they're
Yeah.
within engagement range. Okay, so this is one where you're stuck in combat. They just lob 18 smelly grenades at you. It's potentially nasty. Okay.
The next one is going to make your ranges more. So this is overwhelmingly generosity. Yeah.
Yeah, this
Overwhelming
is
generosity.
6 inches to your plague weapons.
It's not
So
bad. It's for shooting things, right?
But it
basically.
is only for shooting things, and that's why I'm now going to jump in to say, are the Plague Marines bolters plague weapons? I don't know if they
No,
are.
they're
They are
not.
not.
They're not.
So it's going to be very.
Because the next one is for them. Virulent rounds.
Is that what that is? Yeah. So
Use a stratagem in shooting phase. They've got core units. This ability. To the end of phase, bolt weapons. Get the plague weapon ability.
there you go. So you use that, then you make them an extra 6 inches. Done.
Yes.
All
Two
right. I thought.
CPs.
Yeah. There
There
you go.
There's
Job
your
done.
chestnut. There you go. Disgusting force.
There we go. This is
Plague
Plagueburst
crawlers.
Crawlers. Interesting.
Yeah. So they have
This
they
is
go up to
ridiculous.
damage characteristic of 3,
Yeah, it makes the Plagueburst mortar damage free.
which is
Stupid.
really good. Off the model shot, select one enemy unit that was hit by one or more of the attacks made by the plague burst mortar. By that model, this turn, roll a d6 for each other model within 3 inches, excluding Nurgle units of the selected unit on a 4+ suffers a mortal wound.
So you
It's good.
think like if you've got
It's
an
really
army
good.
that's kind of camped up at the start, these are your guys who are gonna, because they can move and fire this mortar now with no So you remember back in the day, you never used to see it. No one ever used to move and fire it. It was pretty useless. Now it's a beast because it's hitting on freeze.
Yeah.
It's you do that on one of them. So I've got some models with 3 wounds. Right, suddenly this is death,
Yeah.
whereas it previously wasn't death because it was
Yeah.
only 2. So it's big. For 1 CP, I can see that getting played.
I think it's really good, really good, and that's the stratagem. So some good ones in there, some definitely strong. And then we've got the deadly pathogens.
Yes, again, you don't need to go through them all. There's
No.
a couple of decent
This is
ones.
just your little bolt-ons, isn't it?
Yeah, and basically the what was I sort of seeing again? There is one which kind of sort of jumps out, which you would put on. And I can't remember which one it is now. I'm looking at it. Oh my word! You've read all this shit, and then you've gone. There's like 1 or 2 which are kind of worth looking at, and I can't remember which one they are. You basically pay the points to add them on. Yeah. So I think one is one of the guys there's the like the plague spewer thing, doesn't he? So you give him an extra AP, which is pretty decent. There's one
Corrosive
which
filth is quite good. Each time attack made with a weapon against a vehicle unit, add 1 to the damage characteristics.
Pretty reasonable.
It's pretty strong.
And then there's the which is the one? Oh, I can't think now.
There's one that gives you +1 armor penetration.
The viscous death is a good one as well, and that guy with the big plague spear thing, because he gets to reroll the results of the attacks, which is pretty cool.
It's one that takes away cover.
Each time attacks made an unmodified rule roll. Yeah, there's one that takes away cover, and there is one
that does mortal wounds.
Yeah, there's one that does the explosive outbreak is another good one. It's every time you do the attack, you get every 6 does an extra hit, so it's like start to stack them up. But you can put these guys onto anybody. I mean,
so this is like your kind of sergeant things, isn't it? This is basically
so it's any Death Guard character model.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Well, I think you can have this and a relic. I think, or you can put it onto a champion. I think you can you just upgrade a weapon, basically, isn't it? So, so you can't be a grenade weapon or a relic. But again, you put that onto your Demon Prince of Nurgle. You give him the explosive outbreak or whatever. So suddenly he's got all of his rerolls. He's got exploding 6s do additional hits. There's extra things that you can do to make him even better. Because it says you can have a relic and a deadly pathogen. So this is where you can really make a very killy. Or you could add one. So if you're up against, I think from a tournament setting, you'd have to declare these in your list, right?
You would, yeah.
So again, if the meta is going a bit more, you see some sort of vehicle/monsters or vehicles in general. You could have the extra damage on the sword. The 4 damage sword is not shit, right?
No, exactly.
Or you can. It's just so many little different things that you can do. And I think a proper Death Guard player is probably poured over this for for hours and hours.
Yeah, exactly. Looking at the combo. So
I'm just trying to
we'll
sort of
move.
think of where to go with it, but there's
Yeah,
loads.
we'll move on from it.
Right?
There is loads there. There's loads there. So then we've got the Warlord traits. Now, obviously, you're not leaving home without your revoltingly resilient, which is basically the old disgusting resilience, which is generally going on Mortarion. That's where it's going, right?
So I don't think you can have a Warlord trait that someone else has.
You can't.
So if
Right.
you bring Mortarion, since he
He's
has to
having
be
it.
your boss, he has
Yeah.
to have all those free.
Yeah.
So I think the reality is they're probably the three best ones anyway.
They are the best ones. Yeah.
Although,
So I don't think we really need to go into too much more detail than that on the whole, because they're the ones you're taking, right?
yeah, I probably would. It's hard to, it's hard to think why you wouldn't. So
yeah. So we've got relics. We've just got so much. This is so much.
Oh, it just goes on and on and on, this book, doesn't it? I think
It's-
the key takeaway from this is, I think already spotted by a lot of people, is the Fulgaris helm is going to be absolutely massive, because it just allows you to, if you put that with the 6-inch from, I can't remember which one we said now, the 6-inch aura from the other thing,
it starts to
I
get
think
silly.
you put the stratagem, you can get a 12-inch, so almost like a 24-inch bubble of 6+ feel no pain on your infantry. With that helm, because the helm adds 3 onto 3, and that stratagem gives you another 6, so it gives you a 12-inch aura of. So if you've gone very infantry heavy, so you've got a lot of plague marine type stuff, it makes them quite resilient, and I think there's a lot of people have spotted that. It's going to be pretty big. And the other one which everyone's kind of spotted is the revolting stench vats. That's huge. That is huge. It's huge. It's huge. It's huge. It's a massive thing because it's an aura. And it just basically makes everyone you can't fight first, and you never count as having made a charge. And it's 6 inches, but it goes on a foul blight spawn model, which you're going to take as part of your fetid Virons anyway.
Yeah,
and it's just absolutely, that's a big one.
Yeah,
because suddenly you've got that. We've got all the extra little bits that are going on with it. You don't really want to be like, I'm going to have to charge into these guys at some point, and all this sort of shit doesn't help me, because it's like I'm charging in, and you're gonna make me fight last.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay, that's big. Because
no, definitely. No, I think that's really strong. So then we've got, there will be other things in there. Then we've got the contingent discipline, and this actually, I didn't see too many changes in here. They're pretty much the same.
Yeah, there's the -1 to hit, isn't there? There's the standard stuff. So let's be honest, Mortarion has taken that.
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
so,
yeah.
He wants to be -1 to hit.
There's stuff that does basically, most of them just sort of do mortal wounds, really. The vast majority of them the same sort of as they used to. To be fair, I couldn't see many changes from the old ones. I was looking for them. They're pretty much the same. So not really too exciting there. So then you've got the big thing now is then the units, right? And without kind of sitting with them right next to each other, I couldn't tell you exactly the huge differences. Now, Typhus seemed to get quite a lot more scary, because what we were saying is there has been a change to the size, the Man Reapers.
Yep. So all the Man Reapers now got 2, which makes loads of sense, right? They can reap or they can smash. I've no objections to that. I think that's very fluffy. It's very much how a scythe would work, right? So basically it's either it's like a kind of like a strength 7 Thunderhammer for him, because he's got a master crafted like Man Reaper. So interesting that they brought master crafted in the phrase. I mean, because it's a very Space Marine thing, right? So I kind of like that. Sort of gives the little nod to what they were.
Yeah,
because he's had this weapon since the dawn of time, right?
Yes,
he's had
absolutely.
His or you can scythe, which is he gets 2 hits instead of 1. So he goes in, so he can scythe and do like 12 hits. But then you remember you've got that little stratagem if you wanted to, which is characters get the explodings and all the rest of that stuff. And suddenly, he's putting out a lot of pain. And then every wound he does, he can do a mortal, right, and all that kind of shit. And it's just like, well, okay, there's some play in this. There's suddenly this guy's. He's starting to do some work, and obviously he makes Poxwalkers a little bit stronger still. But I don't think
which I think is kind of almost like a secondary thing. But I suppose if you were going to go down the route of heavy Poxwalkers, you'd almost certainly take him, because he does buff them quite a bit. But I think he's just a beat stick on his own. He's pretty good. I think the only other from a character's point of view, we then have the Lord of Virulence, which is kind of a new guy. So he's got these kind of the weird sort of spitters things, but they look pretty crap if you're asking me. They don't look particularly scary. So he has
the only
Twin Plague Spewer.
Yeah, the only thing that you can do is you've got the ability to make that a rerollable 2d6.
Yeah.
It's not amazing. It's not amazing.
It's only strength 5 -1 damage. It's not the greatest. It does have plague. Yeah.
I'm not gonna lie to you. You can only have one Lord of the Death Guard, unless he's very, very cheap and you're desperately trying to squint in other stuff. I don't think you're taking him, are you?
I don't think you're taking him either. So the Lord of Contagion now is quite good because now there's actually a difference between Typhus and the Lord of Contagions. He's actually a different data slate, whereas before he was pretty much exactly the same as Typhus, pretty much. Now he is significantly weaker than Typhus, but still pretty good.
Yeah. So his Man Reaper's slightly worse, right? It's slightly less damage.
Yeah, absolutely. But obviously, he's a bit more customizable, so you can put more stuff on him because he's not a named character. So that's him. You got Sorcerer, which we knew about. Malignant Plague Caster. I can't really tell you where he's changed. Looks about the same.
And these are the guys. I think this is your tax, right? So you have to take one of these guys if you want to start.
You do.
A reasonable size, but that's that, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Plague Marines are. The 2 wounds is big, right?
But I mean, that's the big thing with them. That's huge. It's huge that they got the 2 wounds.
The 2 wounds. It's the -1 damage. It's such a bitch.
It is.
Makes such a massive difference to how everything now works. As far as I'm concerned, it's like damage 2 was like it was, wasn't it? That was the big thing. I remember when they launched 9th was, don't worry, guys. You can kill Primaris Marines now because we're making all your heavy bolters 2 damage. Yay! Then Death Guard arrive. Nope, that's a 1 damage heavy bolt you've got there, son. It's 50% worse. That's what Death Guard do. They make heavy bolters 50% worse.
Yeah.
That's like a little bit depressing, especially how they changed, very much how they changed like Power Fists. I almost want them to go back to D3 damage now. I'd like to have to roll to get the free damage if that's quite. I'd like to take my chances, right?
Right?
It's 1 damage anyway. Yeah. But on a 5/6, at least it's going to hurt you. Now it's like. Yeah.
So then we've got cultists and poxwalkers now. Personally, I'm not sure. I'm not totally sold on the being off cultists and always take poxwalkers, but you've heard it from more reliable sources than me, so I'll take that as gospel and say goodbye.
Very good players have basically said that, but again, with everything, never say never, right?
No,
people can
exactly.
Find something, but I just think on paper now, there's no reason to take a Death Guard cultist unless you're going to do basically scramblers. I think that was it. Deploy scramblers. That's about the only reason you have a unit of them, because they're not obsec no more. So whereas poxwalkers are. So why, if you're going to have something camping an objective, you want it obsec, right? Why would you?
I suppose. I think generally when things get near these type of units and touch them, they die anyway.
Yeah,
so it doesn't really matter whether their objective's secure or not.
Mega easy to kill. A poxwalker is harder to kill than a cultist, right? Yeah, can we agree on that?
I think you're right there. I can't argue with that. With a toughness 3 versus toughness 4, and a 6 up save versus everything, rather than a 6 armor save.
Yeah, so if I'm going to do that, and plus you can get them back up again, and blah 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 blah, I think you're not going to take. If that's the job,
you can't have you can't use the cultist Chaos Space Marine stratagem on them either because it doesn't exist in this book. So
correct, and they don't have any of those keywords anyway.
No.
So they're dead. That's my view. Anyway,
I don't know the points. Is the only thing I'm not sure on whether the points are. If their points are cheaper, they might be the cheapest tax you've got, which would be my only counterpoint to it. If they're a point cheaper, maybe. Anyway. And then you've got the Noxious Blightbringer, who in my mind doesn't seem like he's changed dramatically.
This is just part of your Verons. So this is now into the Verons. So you've got the Blightbringer, the Blightspawn, the
Foul Blightspawn worth talking about because the Foul Blightspawn was the thing that people were, spamming 3 of these in all their lists.
Yeah,
but it was 2 things. So basically, your kind of newbie, kind of average player, someone like me, would take it all because of the flamer. Now, your more experienced player would tell you that actually it's all about the fight last or a bit.
Yep, the fight last
because it's so strong.
And this is one of the things that you can really benefit. This is
Yeah.
another one of the ones that you can put the Fulgaris helm on.
Yes.
You can up that to an extra 6. So you can basically, this guy, you can get up to a 12-inch aura of fight last, which is massive if you've got to play it that way. So this guy
has got worse though. The sprayer has got worse,
yeah,
which is worth mentioning.
You don't
quite
play
significant.
That, do you? If you're gonna play it that way, you play it for the I'm gonna make every single thing that comes anywhere near me fight last.
Yes, but I thought it's interesting because
right?
because that 3 damage flamer that was there previously was a big deal, but now it's just down to 2 damage. It's that's quite a significant decrease in damage output. But
yes, so you take this guy for different reasons.
You take it for different reasons. It makes him clearer. Like whereas before, he had kind of 2 roles that were both extremely powerful. Now he kind of the flamer is kind of like an extra thing that he has. It's not bad, right?
Yep.
So it's interesting. It's interesting.
You're right,
I'm
mate.
just having a cat rip the living shite out of me at the moment, so I'm a bit distracted. So apologies, people. I'll drop him out the door and have social services around here. Well, social services, I think RSPCA. That's the one.
Is it a cat or a child, right? We need to be clear here, right?
Depends who you speak to, right?
No, very true.
Anyway, but anyway, then we've got the Putrefier, which I don't really think there's much to talk about here. He's the grenade dude.
Yeah, no.
The Tallyman, which is the guy that gives you command points.
Yeah, this again semi-interesting. I mean, I think the only sort of reasonable thing is you can now, whereas you wouldn't probably want to give up an elite slot to the Tallyman, maybe, but now you can take 3 of them in one elite slot. Why not? There's some potential play to that. But I mean, we'd see. But it is interesting that you can get, because command points are still big, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So then you've got the surgeon, which is your apothecary guy.
I forgot about the 5th guy. Yeah. So again, this is the. I think this is another one that you might potentially want to put the extra thing on. This is your guy that gives the 6 up feel no pain. Yeah. So this is the. Right. So you can get this guy up to a 12-inch feel no pain bubble, which is
good.
It's really good. Yeah, and he heals people, right? So
so I think you might take this guy. I think he's pretty strong. You probably see him.
Yeah, and again, I think it's always hard to give up. I mean, you wouldn't take 3 slots for these guys, would you? But now they've made it so you can have one slot for 3 of them. That's a pretty big deal. I think, you'll see some, right? I don't know which order you'll see them in, because obviously I think you're probably going to find whichever one of their auras is the best for your playstyle, and you're going to go heavy on that and make that a really big aura. Which, unless you can hide him, means I want to bring sniper rifles again. That's what makes me want to do. But with the terrain of 9th now, I think you could hide him pretty easily in a ruin, right? And just have this huge aura of bullshit floating around.
Yeah. So then we've got the Blightlord Terminators and the Death Shroud Terminators to talk about. Now that obviously we talked a little bit about the Man Reapers for the Death Shrouds. I think the interesting thing is obviously they've gone up to 3 wounds on the Blight Lords, which is big. But I believe the Death Shrouds were already 3 wounds.
They were, and they stayed that way.
So that's a bit of a kick in the nuts for them.
I don't know. I think Death Shroud you only really brought to sort of sit and to take wounds off Mortarion, which they can't do now, right? So they can't bodyguard Mortarion anymore. And they had some decent enough hits, but I think with the way they've changed the Reapers, no, I think they're decent now. With those Reapers going double hits, they've got 4 attacks each, remember? So they've got 5 + 4 + 4. So what's that? That is 8. That's 12. That's 15 attacks, which will double up to 26 attacks on the charge potentially.
Yeah,
I think they've got play, right? I don't think you can just say no. They're not in play, and they've got D6 pistols, remember, as well, which is a plague weapon, which all helps with the rerolls. I know it's not very strong, but I think they've got play. But the Blightlord Terminators for me are still what they're going to do. they're going to be a pain in the ass to
Yes.
shift off, but
Yes.
the flail of contagions aren't going to be as bad as what they were, because that overrunning fucking damage was horrible. And if
Yeah,
they've given that to the Deathwing, I'm going to
they have.
complain.
They have
It's
given it
just
to Deathwing.
nonsense.
100% they're giving it to Deathwing.
Absolute fucking nonsense. But and this is where it's interesting, and this is where my brain goes to because the best armies end up playing each other, right?
Yeah.
And these two guys wailing on against each other, it's going to be like a war to the death, because none of their weapons are better than damage 2. It's just going to be an absolute Blightlord
Slugfest.
Terminators versus Blightlord Terminators. I think you could go home and come back in the morning and they'd still be going at it.
Yeah, you're probably right. You're probably
Because
right.
they've got 2 ups. None of these minuses are particularly massive. Bale swords are about as good as you get, but it's only got
Yeah.
1 damage.
Yeah.
Jesus, you could be here forever. I
Yeah.
think they've all got a 4-up invul. I just think, oh my word, they're just going to be tanky.
Yeah.
Very difficult to
I think they'd be
shift.
very good. I think they'd be very, very good.
They
So
offensively don't look that amazing. I mean, maybe
they're
it's
not there for that. They're not there for, I don't think they're there for that job. I think what you've got now is you've got some nastier artillery pieces. You've got a very strong guy. You've got some characters that will do damage, but your
if you
guys are going to
dump
sit in the
these
middle.
guys on objective or something. Yeah, you're
They're
going
going
to
to
find
be
it very
annihilated.
hard to shift them, aren't you?
Absolutely. So you've got Hellbrutes, which we're not going to talk about. Possessed,
Yeah.
which we're not going to talk about. Spawn,
Well,
which we're
there
not going
has
to
been
talk
some
about.
talk about are the possessed back in play, because I think people want them to be, because of they obviously got plague weapons as their claws and yada yada yada. But I think the general consensus has been they're not.
Nah.
They have a lot of attacks, and
Yeah.
it's the plague weapon thing, and it's just but it's been a general kind of like, are they, aren't they? And I think the general kind of consensus is still out, so it would be interesting to see.
Yeah. So then we've got the kind of the vehicles, which I think are
The little
such cool
buggies.
models. I love them. So we've got the little buggies, which are the Blight Haulers. So obviously they got quite a big buff in quite a few ways. I mean, the -1 damage is huge on vehicles. Really big.
Agreed. Yeah, agreed.
And then, the fact that they've got an invulnerable save is strong, and now they are +1 to hit. So they're just so much better than they were before, and they were pretty good before. So I really like them. Then you've got the bloat drones, which is the similar
What
thing
would you
again.
put on these guys? Would you put multi-melters on them? What would you go
Yeah,
with them?
multi-melters.
Yeah, because the thing with a multi-melter is, well, it's a multi-melter, a missile launcher, and a gnashing maw, isn't it?
Yeah,
Is if you get them in combat now, they've got they've got the relentless, so they're always going to get that. They're hitting on,
exactly.
and they always hit on freeze. That's the bitch of it.
It's
So
really good. So
yeah, they're
strong.
good. They're
So
good.
strong. I love those little things. I think they're cool. You can take them in units for free as well.
Yeah, no, it's bollocks. Anyway, next.
And then we've got the bloat drones, which again are pretty cool.
Yeah, I mean, only units are one of these things, right? So, and this is where it gets a bit thing, isn't it? Because this is the one that can heroically intervene. I wonder how much play this thing's got. But it used to be really horrible, right? It used to be.
Well, it's just the fact it's quite a lot of wounds with invulnerable save. It's toughness 7 thing, which is not that many points. Moves pretty quick. 3-up save, 5-up demon save, and then a -1 to damage is a pretty tanky little thing, isn't it?
Yeah, yep. And obviously 12 attacks in the charge from the flesh mower, which is 2 damage -2. You can't go wrong with that, can you?
It's good. It's really good. It's really good. Really, really good.
Interesting.
And then one of the biggest different winners, the Plague Burst Crawler.
Oh my god. I hate these things
these
anyway.
guys were big news before, and they just got better. So yeah, the one thing that was bad about these guys is you thought, well, they're never going to hit, because obviously they had to stay at the back, do nothing, or otherwise you moved them quite aggressive, and you just were like, well, I'm not going to.
Flamethrowers.
You use them as flamethrowers.
Yeah.
And you use them as blockers, and you use them as just things that got in the way, because you could just charge things with them because they wouldn't die, and they could just be a nightmare basically. But now you can actually use these guys to shoot as well.
Yeah, because the Plague Burst more. I mean, D6 shots is swingy. We know that, right? It can be anything or nothing, but it's decent. And the fact that you can make one of them then 3 damage is nasty. Because,
yeah, absolutely.
Because if nothing else, again, if you come up against your opponent's Plague Marines, suddenly you've got Plague Marine killers, right? Because 3 damage is the magic number now.
Yeah, I think these are all to include. I'm going to go out there and say they're all to include in a Death Guard army.
I think they always have been, though, haven't they? I mean, back in the day, I remember my first LVO. I faced 5 of these things, right? And that was just 5 of these things: Mortarion and Magnus. Yeah, that was a game that we had fun with.
We all had fun, right?
Yeah, first game.
I
Welcome to
remember your
Vegas.
face after that game, actually.
I won. That's all that matters. But it was a bloody sludge fest. It was horrible because they just won't die, and
No.
it was just too many of them to try and deal with. And I think that's what's going to make this army good, because it's that if you haven't got huge amounts of feet on the ground, having other things that can be a pain in the hoop and just be generally, because they're basically slower moving wave serpents, right? Because they've got -1 damage, which is massive on things with 12 wounds, because it basically makes them 24 wounds, right, for most
crazy.
things.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Unless you try and spam it off with 1 damage, but they're toughness 8, so that's not fucking easy, is it? So
no, I just think these things are really good, really,
it's
really
the fact
good.
they just keep moving, keep shooting you with that stupid thing on top, which always used to miss because it was hitting on like 5s or something stupid back in the
It
day.
hit on 4s, but then you move it, so it hit on 5s.
For 5,
Yeah.
So it used to be one of those, whatever. Oh, I haven't hit. Woo, next.
I'll
Now
hit you
it's
with
like
flamers. Yeah.
Now it's like shit. It's hitting you on 6s. Even that stupid volley gun's now decent, because even that used to
Exactly.
be pretty crap.
Yeah,
It's like
yeah,
shit. Even now that hits me. So
yeah. They're
it's
good.
not nice.
No, so we're going to skip over the next ones because they're all the standard vehicles, which we're just not going to talk about. Obviously, we'll be here all night, and I want to finish on the furnace before we wrap things up, because this is again something that's interesting.
People say this is a nice looking model, and I've yet to see it. It just looks really stupid, like 3 balls. It looks like a bong. That's what it looks like. It doesn't look like anything fucking decent at all. I don't get it. People are going, "Oh, it's such a nice model." Is it? This is like,
it doesn't excite me, to be brutally honest.
it's
I
either
don't think it looks terrible.
It's either a bong or it's a dick and 2 balls, right? Either which way, I'm not getting the vibe of a nice model out of this thing.
But I also don't really see where it does very much, to be brutally honest. I'm struggling
People
to
have said
see.
it's really good. Bang it. It's because you can deploy it anywhere, right? Am I right?
Yeah.
So you bang it in the middle, and it gives you a massive, great, big, huge coverage of whatever it does. So
what it does, it is you like
gives you
cover.
a -1 to hit, doesn't it? It gives you a -1 to hit bubble.
Yes.
So you can bang it.
So what it does, it says, while a friendly Death Guard infantry unit is wholly within 6 inches of it, it receives the benefits from light cover. If it was already receiving the benefits from light cover, then each time an attack is made against that unit, subtract 1 to the attack hit roll.
So if you're already on, if you're already behind something that does it, I don't know.
It's situational, so it might not even do that all the times. It's not kind of guaranteed. I don't know. It does, for me. It's a bit of a trolling unit because it's actually quite hard to kill, because it is toughness 8 and it does have 12 wounds, and it does have that disgusting resilience thing.
And it does hurt things, right? Because it's got a little it's got a very small ranged attack.
It does have a little crappy attack as well. But
every 2d6, it'll do something, right? So it'll
not a
chip
huge
off wounds.
amount.
It'll chip off wounds, though, right? It's just a pain in the ass.
It hits on 6s, though.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know.
No. The stink automatically hits me. It's a flamer.
Right. Okay.
So it's 2d6. Right. It's a 2d6 strength 4 flamer.
Right. Okay.
But again, it's just the fact that it sits there and it's like you said, it's a troll unit, isn't it? It just winds people up.
Yeah. So let us know if we're missing something on that, because I don't really see any really use. I don't think you're going to see them personally, but there you go.
I think it's the closest you've come to a terrain piece being something you might take. I think that's the truth. Because you think of the orc one, what was the point?
Oh no, the shit tree was used quite a bit.
Yeah, maybe
that was useful, but yeah, other than that, up to now, like, you're right, maybe it's the next nearest thing, I suppose. I don't know, but then again, the Tyranid fortification's good. I know. Anyway, guys, we are done, because there is loads in this book and we could talk about this for hours on end.
Oh, we missed all sorts. I'm pretty sure I've missed the whole contagion piece as well. It's in here somewhere. I've just missed it.
Almost certainly, but we've been going for an hour and a half. So
Jesus, have we?
Yeah, we have. So we're gonna call it a night tonight. But the good thing is we've got another Codex just around the corner, because the Dark Angels will be dropping. So we'll be doing Chaos
double
two
chaos
times in a row.
Double chaos. That's awesome.
More chaos. So yeah, and that has perked my interest back in the Dark Angels. So we'll see what that has to bring. But thank you very much for listening. Hopefully you've enjoyed this podcast, and we'll see you again soon. Bye for now.
Bye.